couldn't make it today. So we're talking about what I call pure confidence, which is kind of stripping away our ideas about confidence and really getting to the root of what it is. Again, most people think of it as a switch. I have confidence, I don't have confidence. Some people also think of confidence as things are working for me or things are not, but it's really not. It's really a muscle that you build, and I'm hoping to show you guys how to do that. You're welcome to join any of our events. They're always free. They're designed to serve folks. You don't have to be a member to join them. We're doing on September 9th, raising startup capital. And then a really cool event, if you haven't done them, is Gather and Grow. It's phenomenal. It's uplifting. It's usually our largest attended event. There's usually 70 to 90 entrepreneurs there. So if you like networking and you want to get new ideas, that's a great one to attend. Okay, so just one slide about ShiftCo. We train conscious entrepreneurs how to grow your business and maximize your impact. A conscious entrepreneur is somebody that wants to both do good and make money in their business. 88.9% of the founders that use our platform and tools double their revenue. And the confidence part of it and the personal skill development that we have is one of the reasons why our results are as good as they are. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But again, you don't have to be a member to join. We also have tons of training on our YouTube page if that appeals to you as well. My background is, I'm going to come to the confidence part in a minute, but the part that relates to ShiftCo is I have had multiple exits, which means I sold the business that I had started, including an initial public offering in way back in 2000 or 1999. That's how old I am. Long time, gray hair. And then started another business, sold that. And then in 2009, I had this crazy idea that I would start a portfolio of purposeful brands. It's kind of like a purposeful Shark Tank with the single goal of using my business growth skills to make the world better. We have a speculator fund that invests in businesses. This is one of my favorite investment of all. It's called Your Izzy, and it's the first zero waste makeup line. We have other investments, but this is by far my favorite. I just feel like, putting our money and our resources to get rid of all of the personal care products that flood the oceans and the rivers and the trash, just is a really good way to use my skills. We also grow our own companies. And so these are a few of our brands. And I am fortunate enough that we train people how to run those businesses for me, so I don't have to do that. And so I get to figure the business out, build it and grow it. And then somebody else on the team runs it for me, which is a really, really cool job. I love it. But my coolest job is probably 60 to 70% of my time is spent in ShiftCo, and I do nothing but serve founders. And I help them grow. I help them figure out pricing. I help them figure out website conversion. But most importantly, I think the way I serve people best is helping them break through the mental and emotional game related to life and related to growing a business. And I believe that when you crack that nut, you can do anything that you want. So my confidence journey, I think, is really important to understanding that I practice what I preach. It's not just theory. I started my career as a classroom middle school teacher. I was a middle school classroom teacher. And I think I did that because I grew up in a very impoverished environment. I was beaten and abused in every way possible. We were dirt, incredibly poor. And I was able to work my way out of that. And so I wanted to give back. And I thought I'll become a teacher and I'll save other kids. Found out that that's not as easy to do as what I thought. I pivoted over and went to work for an educational software company. And that's when I found, this was 1992, found out I had this natural gift for business that I didn't know I had. And my career took off. The problem is it took off away from the actual doing the things that I loved. That ultimately led to being president of an internet company. That's the company that went public. And then I started my own growth strategy firm. And the point that I like to make about all of these is it's not the success that I had. What was happening to me is I was using my title, I was using my role, I was using how much money I made to validate my sense of self-worth. We've all done that. We use all sorts of things to validate our sense of self-worth, how we look, how we feel, particularly with women, and I'm glad there's only women here today because I can speak a little bit more about the confidence gap as it relates to men versus women. But with women, most of us are trained to be wives, daughters. We're trained to be of service. We're not trained how to be tough. We're not trained how to be resilient. We're not trained how to be strong. And that I was caught up in that, and I was using my success. I was chasing success, money success, financial success, um, my house, my car. I was using all of these things to validate my sense of self-worth. And I did not know how to course correct that. And I had, multiple breakdowns as a result of that. Um, so how does that relate to entrepreneurship? So when I've studied entrepreneurs and I've studied the frustration, entrepreneurship is one of the most difficult things you can do. The biggest challenge most people have that causes them never to successfully get the business stood up is fear of failure. And that fear of failure is not a switch. It's not, it's on or it's off. It's more like a dial. And sometimes my fear of failure is really high, and sometimes my fear of failure is really low. What I want to teach you is a strategy to manage it, whether it's high or low. And more importantly, I want to teach you how to not allow external things to cause that fear of failure to go up or to go down. Most of the time, if our business is working or our career is working, our fear of failure is low. But anytime things start to not work, fear of failure goes up. And you can't let that happen. You can't be at effect of your external events. So the other thing that entrepreneurship, I think, affects us is perfectionism and second guessing. That we want everything to be perfect. I'm second guessing everything that I did. Should I listen to what Terry says? Should I listen to what this person says? And we don't really know how to listen to our own voice. So, as it relates to fear of failure and perfectionism and second guessing, why do you think these things pervasively affect confidence? I'd love to have you guys contribute. Somebody, please just come off of mute and tell us why you think fear of failure and perfectionism and second guessing really erode our confidence. Any takers on that?
Think for me, it is because you don't trust yourself. So it robs the trust you have in yourself. And when you stop trusting yourself, you lose your identity and you're not anchored to anything.
Spot on. Spot on. Anybody else want to add to that?
I just think it's hard sometimes. My job has evolved into something which is very detail oriented, and I find myself making little errors here and there, and having to double and triple check my work. And I think after making a few mistakes, your confidence level definitely drops, and you go into kind of like an anxiety mode where you're afraid to just take chances and be confident with what you're doing, even after you check it. So that's kind of like where I am. I just need to build up my confidence level.
Excellent. I appreciate that honesty is so mistakes erode our confidence. Those were the words that you said, and that is exactly what happens. And you're going to have mistakes. Like if you're a leader, you're going to have mistakes. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have more mistakes than even a leader does because we fail more as entrepreneurs than we succeed. And those failures and those mistakes erode our confidence. Nilo, did you want to add something to that?
Yes, I wanted to, particularly what Shannon said about the trust. I think one of the things that's so funny about this whole thing is that you can fail repeatedly as an entrepreneur, which we all do. And then we've been through it, we've gone through failures, and yet our mind is wired to go back to um, the the confidence erodes because we can say, well, why haven't we figured out that the reason we keep failing versus thinking through it and saying, wait, it's the other side of the coin. I've gone through so much. I should have the confidence. So it's just interesting to see how our mind works. Because I always find myself being like shooting myself down versus saying, oh, you've been through this before. You've got this. Like, it's interesting to see how that happens on a daily basis for me.
So you're twisting the story into a negative when in reality it's a positive.
Correct.
Spot on, spot on. Diane, did you want to add to that?
I also find, I don't know if anybody ever saw the movie Sliding Doors, where, Gwyneth Paltrow, if she makes one decision, it goes this way, and the other decision goes that way. And I often find that I spend my time in the what if I should have done that thing versus this thing that I'm doing. And because now I'm invested, and because I've gone down this path, I have to stick with it, but it may be a lost cause. And then it's kind of the what if thing that begins to just put you into paralysis.
Absolutely. And that what if downing can really, really eat at our confidence. And then we lose all of that power. Okay, good. So you guys have a really good handle then on how it affects us. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about there's actually 4 types of confidence. So this is one of the big, like, oh my God, like once I understood that, it really helped me understand where I can build the confidence that I need. Second is to really understand how getting out of your comfort zone actually is where your power is, even though we don't think of it. And then I'm going to show you what I call the pure confidence framework. I've been working on this for over 2 decades for myself, as well as coaching others through Succeed on Purpose and now ShiftCo to overcome. And I'm just going to walk you through that. But let's start first with the 4 types of confidence. So let's think for a second about what confidence actually is. So what happens when we don't have confidence? We talked about the second guessing, our emotions kind of fall. What are some of the other things that happens when confidence kind of falls apart? Dory, what would you say?
Imposter syndrome.
100%. So describe imposter syndrome in your words.
In my words, it is think that you can do something, but then you see other people who are doing it and they're doing it differently or better sometimes, that you start second guessing yourself and like, is this what I should be doing? Am I qualified for this? Should I move on to something else?
Love it. That's a great way to think about it. And then the other thing I want to ask you guys, and we're going to explore these 2 questions for just a minute, is why don't we have confidence? So think of confidence as a muscle. Why are we not building that muscle? And why do we think I either have it or I don't? Why do we see it as it's either on or it's off, as opposed to I just need to make it stronger? What are your thoughts about that?
I think it depends on the day for me. Like some days I feel very confident in myself. It's the way I'm feeling. It's, I think for me too, and I'm not speaking for the group, um, I'm over 50. I think in my 20s and my 30s, I was much more confident with myself. And I'm constantly doubting myself because my memory isn't as sharp. And I have to really work on certain things in my personal life. My diet, my vitamins. I'm balancing so much. I have a daughter in college and I have a career, and um, I don't feel like myself a lot of days, so it's very hard for me to focus. So that is, I'm always trying to remember when I was confident and how that felt, but it's something that I think you either have what some days and some days you don't. I mean, that's how I feel. I'm not, speaking for anyone else, but
Yeah, and I'm just going to encourage you as a person who's 60 now. I remember my 50s. I had lots of, I call them confidence nicks, that just kind of nicked at me because, we do go through those changes and our mind doesn't work the same. And we keep thinking about how we used to be rather than the wisdom that we have now. And once I got that, once I said, look, I'm never going to be 35 again when I thought I could do anything. I now know that I have some limits, but I'm actually wiser today. And if I really tap into that, it might cause that confidence to come back in a new way. Somebody else, I think, raise your hand. Was it Dory? You want to raise your hand? You want to add a little bit more to this?
Yeah, I think that a lot of why we don't have confidence is ingrained in us. It could be from parenting, from bad bosses, different things. So, it's not something that we do ourselves. It's something that may have been thrust upon us.
Absolutely. And particularly in our first 12 years of life, most of our neuro pathways that aren't very helpful are formed in our first 12 years of life. We're not going to get into that today, but and then the reinforcing of things, a bad boss, a bad relationship, a big mistake, those things can just kind of fall into those old pathways and reinforce them. Sandra, did you want to add something?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry about that. I'm taking care of my brother. I cannot be on camera. I find, first and foremost, Terry, thank you so much for your love, for your commitment to see us succeed. And thank you. You give us all that you have. We appreciate that. I find lately we all got confidence in ourselves. We know who we are. We know our belief. This is confidence. We know our belief. We know what we want to do. We know our desire. To me, it's confidence. One thing I find I am studying, to develop that and to learn about it is to be bold. I believe with what we got, even little what we said, someday, one day, we don't have it, but boldness, especially in business, boldness is what we need. And when we have it, even in spite of fear, we got to push on it. So that's my 2 cents. I just want to add.
I
So to
love that,
this.
Sandra. And that's actually a great segue to where we're going. And that is there's not a quick fix to confidence. We want to just flip the switch. It doesn't work that way. It's more like a muscle. And the first thing that I always like to kind of share, which was a big aha for me, is that there's actually 4 different types of confidence. And what I'm hoping that you'll do is really isolate where you are and where you're weak, so that you can focus on the right things. And pure confidence, when in the way that I teach it, is you have to develop all 4 of these. You can't just be strong in one. So developmental confidence is learning how to do new things. As founders, when I am working with a founder, one of the biggest areas of development for them that's the weakest is they don't have developmental confidence, which keeps you stuck. I don't know how to network. I don't know how to post on social media. I don't know how to, blah, 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 insert anything. I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to do this. I don't know pricing. And so for most founders, you can't really move forward unless you really develop developmental confidence. It's like a muscle, all right? And you have to gain confidence in your ability to learn how to do new things. You won't go anywhere. And I think it's true even as an executive, since not everybody here is a founder. As an executive, you've got to be able to learn how to do new things. That's developmental. Performance confidence is improving your ability. So I might not be great at analytics, but I can improve my ability to do them. And the challenge is we don't see these as 2 different things, and we don't realize it's just it's just a muscle I have to build. I need to work on my biceps. I need to work on my triceps. That's all it is. It's just muscles that you have to build, but they're 2 very different ones. Emotional confidence is where your power is. Emotional confidence is managing your emotions, managing your nervous system, recognizing, oh, I feel afraid right now. I don't want to feel that way. I think I want to change the way I feel. And emotional confidence was one of my weakest for most of my life. And I used my external performance to dictate how I felt about myself. Emotional confidence is I dictate how I feel about myself. I'm not going to let my external performance, whether I win, whether I get it right, whether my boss likes me, whether my relationship works, whether the client says yes, whether I win a client, lose a client, that external validation, when you allow external validation to feed you emotionally, you're not really managing your emotions. And so that tends to be weak. Soulful confidence is also a power tool. That's just kind of trusting there's a higher force towards good, whatever you believe that is. And, just knowing that, okay, this thing that didn't work out is actually going to lead me to something better. So we're going to explore these 4 types of confidence for just a minute. So as an entrepreneur, developmental confidence is you have to learn how to do marketing and sales. You know, you can't get around it. There's no easy fix. You can't just hire somebody to instantly bring you clients. You're going to have to learn how to do it. So if I have weak developmental confidence, which I did when I became an entrepreneur in 2002, I have very weak developmental confidence. I lost 2 years of total failure. I was an utter failure for my first 2 years as a founder because I did not have good developmental confidence. And so when it came to marketing and sales as a founder, because that developmental confidence was weak, I kept telling myself, I can't do this. I can't do that. Who am I to think I can do that? And you can do it, but I can't do it. And I was doing all of these external comparisons. And you just have to realize it's just a muscle that you have to build. Anybody can learn marketing and sales. Anybody can learn marketing and sales. You just have to develop the skill. The second one is performance. Okay. I can learn it, but I'm never going to be good at it, or I'm not as good as that person. And so performance confidence is just, I'm going to get better at it and I'm going to develop the skills. I'm going to learn what I need to learn. And both of these are really about learning and training your brain in order to develop the skills that you need. Let me stop and see if there's any questions before we deal with the other 2, emotional and soulful confidence.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Shane.
So, and I'm sorry, I couldn't see if somebody else had their hand up. Um, so, and I don't know, maybe everybody does this, but I tend to want to stay in the land of things I do well. I don't have a problem learning new things. I like to learn new things. I like improving my skills. So when those things are my choice, but I notice that I have a natural inclination to say to myself, "Oh, I'm just not good at that." So I kind of don't even recognize that it's there. And I'm not
I'm
sure
going to
if
actually give you a tool for that.
I don't know if this is chicken and egg, but that's one of those things that I struggle with.
No, everybody does. And I'm going to show you where that is and how to break that. Other questions or comments about these first 2? Now, what I'm hoping you're going to do is self-assess. Like once I really understood the difference, I'm like, I'm good at performance, weak at developmental. Like anytime, like playing golf, I avoid it like the plague because I don't feel like I'm good at it. I don't even want to learn because I feel like I'm a failure. But I am the kind of person, if I can try it, I know that I can get better at it. Some people, it's the reverse. Some people love to try something new, but they're afraid that they can't become good at it. So kind of self-assess where you are, and then we'll look at the other 2. All right, emotional confidence is really paying attention to how you're feeling. I'm feeling anxious right now. I know why, and I'm going to change my emotional state. And again, as a founder, this happens a lot. You know, my client reached out and want to have a meeting. Oh, all the self-talk. You know, I'm like, wait a minute. Maybe they want to actually give me more work. Like you can change your emotional state. And emotional confidence is one of the most powerful tools that you can build. And I'm going to give you some strategies for that in a minute. And then soulful confidence is just trusting that even the most difficult parts of being an entrepreneur will always lead you to positive outcomes. And if you really think about it, 9 times out of 10, they do. Even those failures that I had, I was able to turn those into tools. And other failures I was able to use to serve people more effectively. So kind of look at these 4 types of confidence and self-assess where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, but begin to see them as unique aspects, like 4 different muscles that you're going to build. And know that emotional and soulful confidence are really where your power tools are. And I'm going to show you how to build those, which will help with the other 2. Questions about them before we go into the emotional and staying in your comfort zone. All right, let's get into the emotional side. So I did not develop this, but when I saw it, I like lit up. And the person who developed it talked about these 4 levels, these 4 zones. And the first zone is the comfort zone. And the second zone is the fear zone. Let me put a stationary one up here for just a second so you can see it. And again, I did not create this, and I wish I had, because it's ingenious. And so what happens is we have these neuro pathways that are like a governor. And a governor is like if a governor is on a car, it won't let the car go really fast. It'll keep it at a certain level. And so all of us have neuro pathways that are designed to keep us safe. And so those neuro pathways sit right here. And the minute we step out of our comfort zone, fear kicks in because of that neuro pathway, and it sends a signal from brain, body, body, brain, brain, body, back and forth, back and forth. And what happens is the brain thinks that there's danger and it says, don't go there, up, 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 up. And that's when we really start to tell those stories about not having confidence. We start being affected by other people's opinions. We start finding excuses. And we think that, oh, I this is what I should be doing. But in reality, all of the research says what you want to do is you want to push through that fear zone and get into the learning zone. The faster you can go from the comfort zone to the learning zone, the faster you'll retrain that pathway. Somebody, in your own words, restate what you're hearing me say.
Power through.
And when you say power through, what does that mean?
Power through the fear zone.
Absolutely. So the minute I feel uncomfortable and I know, oh, I'm out of my comfort zone, that is not a signal something is wrong. That is a signal that I need to push. And what I try to do is I immediately, the minute I feel fear, say, what can I learn? And I shift over, and I've trained my brain. The minute I feel afraid about something, I'm like, okay, what can I learn? And I'll look for a book. I'll do a Google search. I'll pull up Chat GPT. I'll go back to an old training. And I instantly say, do I need to learn this? Do I need to develop a new skill? Or do I just need to push through my comfort zone? And I try to get myself as quickly as possible into the learning zone. The irony is, when you do that, when you just get into action and you push through the resistance and you say, I'm going to get some help, or I'm going to go learn something, or I'm going to do a Google search. One of my go-tos is I actually go to YouTube and I look for videos because that helps my nervous system regulate more quickly. And so I'll put in, fear of failure into YouTube and I'll just start watching videos. And the next thing you know, I'm like, I can do this. And so YouTube is a great strategy when you feel that resistance in between the comfort zone and the fear zone. Just go on YouTube, whatever it is that you're feeling, type it into YouTube and just start watching videos, and you'll find that you'll break free of that fear zone. And once you're on the other side of the fear zone, the hard part is done because that's building emotional confidence. Questions or thoughts or examples about that? All right, let's go a little deeper. So this one is the framework. I adapted this from Iyanla Van Zant's book called In the Meantime. I highly recommend that book. Changed my life. I was personally coached by Iyanla Van Zant. She was truly amazing. She's truly changed my life. And I worked with her at some of the lowest points in my life. And this framework that I've adapted and use in Succeed on Purpose was powerful for me to really understand, how do I actually build the muscle? So and again, I've adapted it. It's not exactly the way she teaches it in the meantime, but you'll get the idea. So she calls it basement dwellers, and basement dwellers, that their kind of script is nothing's wrong, it's everybody else. And it's a blame society. We're living in this right now. It is one of the reasons why our society and politics and the government is so off track right now, because there's a lot of basement thinking. And basement thinking is you're not taking ownership and you're blaming. The problem with basement thinking is you put all your power outside yourself. So let's say that I'm a founder and I don't agree with some of the decisions that are being made in Texas, or I don't agree with some of the decisions that are being made in DC, whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to totally mess up my business and they're going to mess up the economy and that's going to hurt my business. And so I start telling all this story. The more I tell that story, the more I put all of my power outside myself. So now I need the government to be effective in order for my business to work. Totally the wrong way to approach it. And again, you can pick any example. Client, the client is difficult. And oh my God, they're being so difficult. It's making it hard for me to, move my project forward. Gosh, and I'm putting all of my power outside of myself. So basement thinking is the most destructive thing that you can do for your confidence because you disempower your psyche. You disempower your energy, you disempower your psyche. Never blame anybody else ever for anything, even if they did something horrific. I had a client who violated a multi-million dollar contract, almost put me out of business in 2018, almost completely wiped me out. It was a multi-million dollar contract and they violated the contract. And man, I was going into my basement thinking because it really, really messed us up. We lost, I think we lost like $600,000 in 4 months. It was horrible. Well, I caught myself. I'm like, no, 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 no. Yes, they did something wrong, but I'm not going to blame them. I'm going to take my power back and I'm going to figure out how to get out of this. So don't allow yourself to get in the basement. The next level, according to Jana Van Zandt, is where you recognize, okay, something's off here. Something's off inside of me. I'm just not sure what it is. And that level I call barrier and pattern identification. And I'm going to actually give you a tool to help you identify where are you stuck? And if you can get yourself from the basement, which is blaming other people, a boss, a client, a partner, the government, if you can get out of that and you can say, I am going to take ownership for my own life. I am going to take ownership for my business. What is holding me back? It's not external, it's on the inside. I'm going to give you a tool to help you do that. Then what happens is you move to the second floor. The second floor is I own that barrier. And I know now what it is. It's fear of failure or whatever it is. I'm just not sure what to do about it. And then that's how you move into that learning zone. You can start learning about it and you can start addressing it. And that's when you really move into what she calls the third floor. There's another floor, but I'm not going to get into that, where you know what to do about whatever's holding you back. And the beautiful thing about the third floor, I've been at the third floor since that multi-million dollar loss. It is so peaceful there. You don't feel the distractions. Even though I may not agree with a lot of stuff that's happening, I'm not distracted by it. Even though I might not agree with a client that, is giving me critical feedback, I'm not disturbed by it because I live at the third floor where I recognize my own stuff. I know what my own stuff is, but I have developed the skills to do something about it. This is the muscle that I was talking about. Somebody either restate what you're hearing me say. Actually, let's start with that. Somebody restate what you're hearing me say about these levels, which are basically the muscles that we were talking about. Anybody want to take a crack at it?
It seems to me like it's all about identifying what the issues are and then finding a way to move forward to maybe not fix the issues, but to figure out how to make them less.
Dora, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what it is. The identification, which we're going to actually do, and I'm going to give you this map that I built to identify what your barriers are. That is where the game changes. It's like, okay, it's this. Now that I know it's this, I'm going to go on YouTube and I'm going to search, or I'm going to get a coach, or I'm going to, buy some training, whatever it is that you need once you know what it is. Questions about this before we get into the barrier and pattern identification? Nilu?
I'm curious to know, Terry, like, This, because I know one of the, and I can't remember where we talked about this, but it was like that we are always searching for answers outside of ourselves. Like there's no guru out there that's going to solve our problems. So how might you address that in this where it's like, okay, go seek out sources and references and coaches. Do you see what I mean?
Great question. So one, it's owning the barrier. And then I see everything else as a tool to help me resolve the barrier. I'm not going to you to fix me, guru, that guru complex we talked about. What I'm doing is I'm looking for tools to help me resolve this. That's all. But I'm owning it and saying, I am owning that I have this fear of failure issue, whatever it is, self-worth. I'm owning it. And I'm simply going to look for tools to help me fix it. I'm not going to have you fix me. I'm just looking for tools to help me fix it. Do you see the difference?
Yeah. So if someone, and we get these messages all the time, it's like, over LinkedIn, like, well, I can guarantee you'll get 12 new organization clients in 2 weeks. So is that a tool or is that also looking elsewhere?
Great question. The question is whether or not you see it as a tool or whether you see it as a savior. So when people market that way, they they're actually attracting people that don't have inner power, and they're saying, okay, I'm gonna guarantee this so that you'll give me the power to fix your business or whatever. That's not the way it works. What you want to do is if you want to hire somebody like that, you say, great, show me how this is going to help me fix my own business. Show me what I'm going to learn from it. Show me how I'm not dependent upon you. Most of those people stop whatever else they're doing, put all their money and time into this one thing, and rarely does it ever work. And then they're even in a worse place because they spent the money and now they're in a worse place. So if you're going to hire somebody, a coach, trainer, whatever, you can't look at it as, oh, that person is going to fix this. You have to say, this is a tool for me to fix this. Does you see the difference?
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Other questions before we get into this pattern and barrier identification, which is where the power actually begins. All right, so this next part is hard because we're going to look at our stuff. But this is where the breakthrough actually comes. So first of all, let's talk about how barriers become patterns. A barrier is a block that you have. We all have them. When a block is repeated, let's say fear of failure, and if I'm in a loop about fear of failure, eventually it goes from being a block to actually being a barrier. Like the resistance builds up. The fear zone gets bigger, and that's not what we want. We want the fear zone to get smaller. So if we don't deal with some of these challenges, then the fear zone gets bigger and it goes from just simply being a block to actually literally being a pattern of belief that completely eliminates our success. To understand these, you have to realize the mind, this isn't how the mind is set up, but it's how the mind manifests things. Most of what we can see is at a conscious level. You're listening to me now, you're consciously aware of what I'm talking about, and you can perceive that. Most of our issues, however, are subconscious, or they're even worse, they're unconscious, and we don't even know they're there anymore. Subconscious, your thought waves and your emotional waves are at the subconscious level, and the key is to bring them into awareness. For those of you that know the success switch, that's what basically we're doing is we're pulling up the subconscious thoughts and feelings into the conscious mind so you can breathe them out of your body. But those beliefs start blocking us. They ultimately will become barriers and they'll completely block us. Most of those are unconscious. So let's go through what that looks like. First of all, the taking something from the subconscious to the conscious is really simple. I'm going to teach you guys, for those of you that are ShiftCo members, you know this, so just bear through this. It's called the success switch. It is one of the fastest ways to retrain your mind. So we're going to do it together. The first step is called acknowledge. And to do acknowledge, you just simply say, the truth is I feel. So make sure you're on mute and do that now. You say it out loud. The truth is I feel frustrated. And then you're just going to wait about 15 to 20 seconds and pay attention to your brain, and you'll find your brain starts to downshift. So everybody do that with me now. I'm going to give us about 15 seconds. The truth is I feel. Now, whatever came up, anxious, afraid, frustrated, sad, down, depressed, whatever it is, don't even think twice about it. All we've done is we've just moved that from the subconscious into the conscious. Now we're going to actually turn to the prefrontal cortex. It's the kind of the boss of the brain. And we're going to have the prefrontal cortex turn on the parasympathetic nervous system. To do that, you take 4 breaths slowly in through your nose and out of your mouth. Breath number 1, and breathe out. Breath number 2. You're probably noticing you feel a little lightheaded right now. That's the parasympathetic nervous system dumping in dopamine into your bloodstream, flooding the amygdala, causing you to feel just a little bit better. 2 more. Breath 3. You should be feeling a lot calmer. That old negative thought isn't there anymore. Your mind is starting to move into neutral. And then breath 4. Kind of do like a little that feels so much better. So that's step 2. And then step 3 is you just claim a new belief. I do have the power to address this. I am powerful. I am strong. I am competent. And you can also just add some visualization, maybe a picture. I like to do like a little Rocky punch and just feel the energy of that. What we've just done, and it literally takes you maybe a minute, sometimes a minute and 15 seconds to do the whole process. You've basically stopped an old pathway from running. And we basically stop that subconscious process from running you. That is one of the most powerful tools that you can learn. We teach it to every single member in ShiftCo because that is how you begin the rewiring of your brain. The second part of this, and this is where it gets hard, is to really look at what these are and freaking own them. So at the top are the 5 most common barriers and beliefs that we're aware of: time management, trust, others, myself, confidence, perfectionism, willingness to act, and then fear and addiction. So these are the 5 most common beliefs and barriers that everybody has. We all have these. Kind of self-identify the ones that you think are with you. The problem with these 5, in most of the time people are working on these 5 constantly, they are not where the challenge is. They're like the top part of a weed. The challenge is there's 2 layers underneath whatever that is. So for me, I used to have an addiction to food. Food used to be my drug of choice. And anytime I was stressed or scared, what do you think I did? I ordered a pizza, I ordered a hamburger, went and got ice cream, ate candy. I don't have that anymore because I've retrained my nervous system, but that used to be it. And so whenever I would get into a fear loop, I used food to cause me to feel better. Some people it's sleep, some people it's depression, some people it's drinking. Um, and on the trust and confidence side, if, I don't trust myself, I don't trust other people. The challenge is these are not the root issues. These are symptoms of something deeper. And this is where it's going to get hard. We're going to go even deeper. The next level are at the subconscious. I'd like to think of this as if you think of an iceberg, they're like where the ripple of the water is. You know, you kind of know they're there, but you're not really paying attention to them. And so the self-awareness is where you're just sticking your head in the sand and you're choosing not to see stuff. Fear of what other people think of you. These tend to correlate like that, as you can imagine. Also, sometimes fear of others and perfectionism go together. Again, think of it like going deeper on the weed. Sometimes perfectionism and need to be right, or sometimes need to control. Willingness to act, meaning you get stuck in analysis paralysis. That usually is connected like this, or it's connected like this. Fear is usually either fear of failure or need to control. They look like this, and so they're connected. And this is just really a symptom. How I cracked my emotional eating issues is I recognized anytime I craved food that wasn't good for me, it almost always meant I was trying to control things or I was stuck in fear of failure. So just kind of let that sink in. I know this is the hard part. This part you'll want to go back and listen to because your nervous system is probably like, that's too close to home. But what I also found is the biggest issue isn't the middle layer. Those are really symptoms of the deepest issues. These are the four biggest areas. And I've studied probably 5,000 people in the last 15 years as I've been working on this methodology. These are the four that we really have to rewire. Fear, I'm going to start with self-worth and describe the difference. Self-worth is where we put other people's needs before our own. We give too much. We subjugate our own power. People that have weak self-worth give up their power and seek validation, or they go to look for the guru and they're chasing the guru complex because they don't realize 100% of your power to change your life is inside of you. It is not out there. Everything that's out there is just a tool for you to change what you want to change on the inside. The second one is not good enough. Not good enough is when you play the comparison game. Oh, look at you, you've got it figured out. You know, I'm not as good. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. And not good enough. 98% of the people that I studied, 98% have a not good enough barrier. And it's a loop. It's a neuro pathway loop that they're stuck in. And the minute something goes wrong, you make a mistake that I think Shannon, somebody was talking about this in the beginning. I made a mistake and all those thoughts come back. All that is just an old neuro pathway of not good enough. I'm going to come back to how they're formed in a minute. Need to know. I need to know how this is going to work out. I need to know you're the right expert. I need to know that I can actually trust you. I need to know that I can do it before I try. I need to know blah, 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 blah. That one almost always is either connected to fear of others or the need to be right. And it almost always looks like this here. So that's need to know. And fear of success is the sneakiest of all of them. It's the one that is the hardest to see, but it is pervasive in women in particular. Because if we got too good at grades, then people were like, well, honey, be careful. And don't go for, the honors classes, go for the class over here. Whereas men are really trained at a very young age to win the championship and be the best. Women are not trained, and we're actually been hyper trained to fear our own power and to fear our success. So again, I know these are hard to look at. Let me just stop and see if there's any questions, and then we'll talk about what you can do. Shannon?
Well, a comment and then a question. It's so interesting the way you just described the fear of success. I can literally remember being in 5th grade and thinking, I need to kind of dumb things down because people are like, oh, she's the smart one.
Yep. They don't do
And
that to men. They didn't
yeah.
do that to men. They do it to
Yeah.
us all the time. Absolutely.
And I had a twin sister, and my parents used to always say, "She's the pretty one, you're the smart one." And I think I also felt like, well, if I'm not smart, then maybe people will see me as pretty. Like that's the barrier. But this idea of dumbing down, it, I can't believe how young I was. And I probably thought it earlier than that, but I physically remember where I was, what I was wearing, everything. So that's so interesting. And when you said that, I immediately went there. Like that was my memory. But I did have a quick question.
Yeah.
The way that you described self-worth, the way you started this section was self-worth equals, and I missed that first thing you said, and I thought it was so good. Would you mind repeating that, please?
Yeah, so self-worth, when we have weak self-worth, we need external validation to tell us that we're good enough.
Hmm.
And so when our self-worth is weak, we need the client win to tell us we're good enough. We need the partner to tell us we're good enough. We need the money to tell us we're good enough. We need the blah, blah, blah to tell us the good enough. We need validation. So when we have weak self-worth, we seek validation. Whereas in not good enough, that's where the imposter shows up, is we're constantly comparing ourselves to others.
Yeah.
Nilu?
you.
Carrie, would you say like if you qualify or if some whatever, I'll just use myself. It's easier to say, oh, someone else, but I'll just use myself. So if I consider myself an overachiever and always my whole life like attaining this education, this certification, like is that self-worth or is that need to know?
Well, it depends on what the story is. So if you're using it for validation, I want to excel to validate myself. That's one thing. If you're using it to feel good enough, that's another. If you're feeling like I have to learn these things, it's more need to know. And so I always say, don't get too hung up on which one it is. Pay attention to the story and think about your memories. These four are actually established in our first 8 years of life. Almost all four of these are born in our first 8 years of life. Go back to who was guiding you, school, parents, siblings, relatives. What types of messages were you getting? And that is going to help you diagnose which of the barriers you have. Okay, and if you're not sure, we don't have this on the Shifco website yet, but you can go to succeedonpurpose.com and look under tools, and there's a quiz that you can take that will actually help you figure out which barrier is holding you back, and that will help you. And so you tend to see the conscious ones, those are typically behavioral. Like if you really think about it, that's how you're acting. At the subconscious level, those are what you're thinking and what your emotions are. The true barriers are at the bottom. And so, what if you look at your behaviors and then you look at the stories that you're telling yourself, what I was just talking to Nilu about, what are the stories that you're telling yourself? Then that's going to tell you what the true barrier is at the bottom. Whichever one you identify is the barrier you want to work on. And I had all of these. Like my research started with myself. I was my own guinea pig. And every year, and I don't have all of these cracked by any means, but every year I set a goal to work on one of these barriers. And every year it's like last year it was fear of success. This year it was self-worth. The year before that, it was not good enough. And so every year I just chip away at one of these barriers. But what happens is you'll begin to see, here's your neuro pathway. For those of you that are doing Success Accelerator with me, there's your neuro pathway right there that we talked about. And so if my root of it is not good enough, the story I'm telling is I have to control everything. And the other part of the story and my behavior is I have to be perfect. So that's what the neuro pathway actually looks like for those of you that are doing Success Accelerator with me. And if you can get down to the bottom, you can completely begin the rewiring process. And then that's where once you know what the bottom one is, then go hire a coach or go take a training class or read a book or go search for YouTube videos, but deal with the one at the bottom. Questions about that? All right. So there's obviously resources for you on Succeed on Purpose as it relates to ShiftCo. If you are a member, for those of you that are a member, one thing we don't talk about is we actually have breakthrough coaches that will help you break through the barriers. So if you are a member and you've taken some of the personal programs, but you're still not nipping away at the barrier, reach out to your mentor and tell them I said that you need a breakthrough session, and they'll guide you through that piece. It's a hidden secret that we have in our portfolio in ShiftCo. Every member gets a couple of breakthrough sessions a year free as part of your membership, because we know that these things hold you back. If you're not a member and you feel like it's the time to do it, please feel free to join us. In addition to us helping you grow your business, we're going to help you break through these barriers. There's a reason why 88.9% of our members double their business. And a big part of it is because we help people work on their barriers. So if that appeals to you, jump in.